All right, so we're going to take a look at section 4.7. It's all about nested loops or putting a loop inside another loop. And we've seen something similar with if statements last chapter where we saw an if statement. And if you indented properly, you could put an if statement inside of another if statement. And so it's going to be very similar to that. And before we even get into all this little stuff and the little rules and some of that, I want to show you this code. So let's take a look. If I come over here and you take a look at this, we have two loops, and you can see that on line 2, this loop is part of this loop. So this is a nested loop, okay? And we have a little statement in here, and our little statement is just simply, to display the value of x, and then tab over, and then the value of y, and that's all that's doing, okay? So as it runs through each time, you get to see this, and really simple statements, both of these. So for x in range 5, so it's going to run 5 times the values 0 through 4 for each one of these. And so these numbers will change. So I want to go ahead and walk through this really quickly. And then that way you can see, and I'm going to step back to that slide and show you a couple of things. Okay, so here we go. So we have for x in range 5, here we go, just kind of stepping through. And you'll see some of these things will start to, let me pull this up so you can see the values as they go through up on here too. Hang on. Okay, right there. All right, so each time it goes through, and here we go with this piece right here. So each time it goes through, you can see we have x equals 0, y equals 0. Well, now, if you watch, this will only execute the range here. So it's going to go from line 2 to line 3, and it's going to execute that each time. And you notice that x stays the same, but our nested loop, our nested for statement here for y, it's walking through each one of the range features for this. So we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going through that whole sequence, okay? So then once I get down to the bottom, it's going to say, okay, that's it. Now it's going to go back. Now we're going to change x equals 1, but y will be 0 again and walk through it one more time through the sequence. So here we go. So there's 1 and 0. Now it's going to walk through the y's again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it'll go back up and execute this. And there you go. X now equals 2. Y 0, 1, 2, 3, and it'll walk through each time. Okay, so a few just little things about this. If you notice, now that you've seen this run, and you can go back and play with it or play with it on your own too, you'll see the inner loop goes through all of its iterations for each iteration of the outer loop. So just taking a look at our code, notice this is what we're talking about here. So x is 0, so it's gone through 1 iterations of 0, but y goes through all 5 before x goes to its next one. That's what that means. And then of course the inner loop completes the iterations faster than the outer loops because it's got to do that. You'll also notice if you run through and get to the bottom of this program, it will go through and it's the number of iterations of the inner times the number of the outer, and that's how many total iterations you have. So if we say how many, and I'll go back over here. How many lines will we have in here? How many times will this run? Well, it's going to go 25 times because we have 5 times 5. Okay, so if we had another one, if we had Z and we had another nested loop in here and it was the same thing for Z in range 5 and we just, indented this over and put this in, then it would be 5 times 5 times 5. So we'd have 125 iterations total. Okay, so that's how that works. All right, so take just a few minutes, go through, play with this, kind of get the hang of it, see where the loops are going and that kind of thing. And I think you kind of get the hang of it. And I want to show you, once you've done that, kind of keep going with the video. I'll show you one more just because I think it's fun. So let me go ahead and click on that right now. And let's look at a clock. So if we're talking about a clock, and you can see on here we have the minute hand, the hour hand, the second hand. And when you're considering this and looking at how this works as a nested loop, think about this. So the second hand is going to move 60 times for each movement of the minute hand. Or in other words, for each iteration of minutes, you will have 60 iterations of seconds. So we know right now this is on 7 minutes and the second hand is on 3. So as this comes around and it finishes, the second hand comes around and it finishes 60, then our minute hand will go click one more time over to 8. Then the second hand keeps going another 60 and on and on and on. So it makes it kind of fun. So if we're to look at this code, here we go. We have 3 loops in here. going military time, so 24, and then we have 60 minutes, 60 seconds, and then we're going to print what the time is. So this little link right here is kind of fun. It goes over here. Oops, let me pull this down a little bit. Dun, dun, dun. So I pull this down. You can see in here, here we go. It's going to print this out. So it's the same code you just saw. And then here is my print statement. So when I click run, it's going to go through, and depending on how fast your computer is, you will see it walk through uh, clock cycle. So I mean that's what we're doing. So we're 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. We have our minutes in here, and it's going to go through all the way through the end. We're in military time now. We'll get all the way to the end, and we'll get 23. I just pull up 23, 59, 59, and then that's the end of that. So and you can see as it goes through each one of these 0 through 59, there's our 60. And then we see the same thing with this is 59 here, but we could scroll back through and see all of them, and it's just kind of a fun thing. So anyway, so check that stuff out. Play with the simpler one from here. Play with this link first, and then play with the clock one because it's kind of fun. And then this is a good time for you to go back if you haven't done the last section of my programming lab. That's for this week. It's 4.6. So go ahead and do that, and then check out the programming challenges. The only thing you'll have left now will be the turtle. And you guys will love the turtle using loops. It's really fun. So you get to check that out. All right. So there you go. If you have any questions, let me know.